Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be making, it's a Christmas card, forgive me because this was supposed to be for last Monday, but then I couldn't stop coughing long enough to get through the voiceover. So today I have my cough drop in and we're going to send some prayers up we can make it through. So I've used the Winter Song set before and I did kind of like a fun paint technique with it. But I haven't got to color it. So I really wanted to sit down and be able to color it before the season was out. And so one of them is a cardinal and the other one kind of looks like a chubby little chickadee. So that's how I'm going to color them. I chose to do the belly on the chickadee in a warm gray. I'm also going to use those same warm grays for the cottons that are in the spray. And then I am going to do like a gray, whitish, blackish for the chickadee and then the red for the cardinal. So if you guys have been following along on my channel or if you have been over in the Honeybee group, then you know that recently I announced my first class for color theory. And this card, though completely unintentional, is a great example of why color theory is so important. So this card doesn't have a ton going on. Okay, we have a really pretty pattern paper in the background. We have some coloring going on, but it works really nicely together. And the reason that it does is because of color theory. So red and green are complementary colors. And so those are always going to work really nicely together. And then the neutrals kind of support those two complementary colors. So it's not like too bold or too loud or too kind of over the top. It works really nicely with that same kind of balance. And so if you have a good understanding of color theory, you don't actually need a lot to make your cards look or to work really well together. So here I went in and with the cool grays, which is, I did warm grays for the belly, cool grays for the white around the neck, and then to do the black in the feathers and the top of the head. And so here I don't want to just color it all in black because I don't want to lose the pretty definition that we get with a red rubber stamp. And so I'm going back in and I'm really kind of going over those same lines, kind of elongating those feather lines. And that's going to help give us that separation between each of the feathers and the layers of their wings. Also, you could see when I was doing the warm grays, I was doing kind of like the little dots. Like you can see the little dots that are drawn in there by the illustrator. I'm going over those and I'll do the same thing on the cardinal. And this is going to give us the illusion of more depth and dimension, more kind of like the look of a layered plumage on our birds instead of just being one flat color. And so here it looks kind of crazy, but the feet are there at the bottom. And so that's why it looks like we just go, right around that part. But it's actually the feet that I'm avoiding. And then the little tail feathers are coming out the bottom. So I'm going to go back in and here's those little dots that I was talking about. And I'm keeping the darker ones kind of on the edges. And then I'll go back in with my mid-tone. I will go over the things that I did with the darkest color, and then I'll also extend those out. So now I'm coming in more with my dark mid-tone into those middles. And again, it's just like little C shapes. You just have to kind of like dot over where the illustrator already drew them. You don't have to make up your own. Don't make it harder than it needs. What does my husband always say? Work smarter, not harder. So you don't have to come up with your own. You just follow the lines that the illustrator gave you. And then here, when we color, we typically tend to see the most of our midtones. So whether it's a dark midtone or a light midtone or a combination of the two, like I have here because I use 4 colors, that's going to be what you see the most of. So your darkest color, your shadow color, should be kind of in your nooks and crannies where you want it to be the darkest. And then your highlight color should be the points that are the highest. So here you can see on his belly that he had a lot of, layered plumage. If you want to knock that back a little bit, just like I did, I just went in very quickly and did kind of like some little stripes of color with my light mid-tone, not over all of it, just over some of it to kind of help it blend in a little bit more. And then I'm going to use these same reds as the berries in the bouquet. So it's funny that we like, I've been struggling to do voiceovers for like the last week and a half because I caught a cold. And then I told you guys, I was like, hey, I'm not going to complain about this cold because I haven't really been down and out with it. I've still been able to work and stuff. I've just been a little congested, dry throat, cough, whatever. So then we made it through, Christmas. Thankfully. Oh, here we're doing, the gold is going to be the beaks for both birds and the feet that you can see of the cardinal. The chickadee's feet are covered by that leaf. So we made it through Christmas and everything else. And I always get like no sleep on Christmas. I drive my husband insane, even though I did start wrapping earlier this year. Let's go back to the card real quick. So here, you can see I'm kind of going around this area, even though we've stamped it black. I want it to be like a solid black for the cardinal. And so I'm going back in there with my markers and just kind of deepening that up. For the choices of the greens, I went with some yellow greens, some regular greens, and some blue greens. But these are all going to work really nicely. If I had just used like the red with a blue green and a yellow green, that would be what we call a split complement, which also works really nicely together. So anyway, for the pines, I'm just kind of flicking the color out from the centers. And then don't worry if it gets too heavy. We're going to come back in and break that up with a little bit of white gel pen later. And then I'm going to move on to, it looks like kind of like mistletoe leaves behind the chickadee. And then there's like some holly with the berries. So anyway, here I was bragging about how I was making through this cold without having to stop working or doing anything. And then we went and had Christmas. On Christmas, I never get any sleep because I never get all of my wrapping done beforehand, because really I'm shopping up until the last minute, truthfully. And so this year I did start wrapping early, but not early enough. I was still wrapping until the wee more hours in the morning on Christmas Eve, trying to get together all of my things. To be honest, actually the most time-consuming thing was a video that I did for my dad. That's a longer story. We'll tell that story in another video. But anyway, so I was up late, so I didn't get a lot of sleep. Well, what happens when you don't get a lot of sleep? Your immune system gets run down. So then I was fine through Friday. It was Friday night into Saturday? Thursday night into Friday? I can't remember. I had a sore throat one night, and I was like, okay, I need to take my vitamin C and take my tushy to bed. So that's what I did. The next morning, I woke up with 101-degree fever, totally congested, super sore throat, and so I'm highly suspicious that I have the flu. Thankfully, after a day, the fever did subside. I still have the sore throat and, of course, the cough that is left behind and a little bit of the congestion. So it did take me out, at least for a little bit. I'm glad I was able to recover as quickly as I did. My husband, absolute rock star, because remember, like, we're amidst the holidays, so there's no like childcare, and the closest childcare to us was my parents, and my mother has passed, so there's nobody to call there. And my sisters would absolutely help out with my kids, but I don't want to get them sick because they're helping out my dad. Know what I'm saying? So anyway, my husband was fantastic. He sent me back to bed and hung out with our little one, even though she absolutely terrorized him. You guys all know what her personality is. She absolutely terrorized him. I have no doubt about it. And so tonight we are doing soup. More soups in this house. Which, by the way, if you were watching the other day, I had mentioned that I was making ham and potato cheddar soup. It came out really well. it was a good crock pot recipe. Okay, so anywho, so I am still getting over now my second cold. Hence still the need for the cough drops while I am speaking. So here we've got pretty much everything colored. I did want to add a little bit more balance with the colors. So I have the blue-green pine on the left-hand side, but really nothing on the right. So the gap in between the two birds, I filled in with the blue-green, and then I added just a little bit in between some of the mistletoe leaves, just to kind of balance that color throughout. Then I'm going to cut this out with its coordinating die. I'm also going to cut out 2 of the Art Deco frames. This is an older set, but I've really been feeling this lately. I'm not mad about it at all. So I'm going to cut out a smaller one out of white, a larger one out of black, again, knowing that I already have the color scheme, like the complementary colors that are going on. I am happy to just use some neutrals. Out of this same set, I'm using the Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'm going to stamp this using our Brilliant White pigment ink after I treat with my anti-static tool, of course. And then I'm going to stamp this down. And then I will, I usually do like to stamp mine twice, but then I will sprinkle on some white detail embossing powder and heat set this. And then I can cut them out with their coordinating dies. So like I said, this card was meant to be for last week, when we were heading into Christmas, but it also says, and a Happy New Year. And now we're heading into New Year's. So I think it's okay. I think it's okay. I think it's the best I could do. I think it's the best I could do. So, like I said, once that is heat set, then I am going to go ahead and die cut that out. So I mentioned the color theory class. If you have signed up for that, the supply list did come out today. And you should have got that in an email from me, as well as it will be available on the website. Once again, you do not need to purchase anything to participate in the class. Well, outside of the class, you got to purchase that. But you don't have to purchase anything. You can use whatever it is you have, because the lessons are technique based. The lessons are about color theory. So you don't need to have something specific. But I do know that sometimes people like to create along, and that's totally fine. I have no issues listing that. I am using Copic markers in that class, but I have also listed the Olo as close as I could get them. With some help from Sandy Allnack, because she also has a conversion chart, which I did use within looking at like kind of my own idea. So no matter what coloring medium you use, color theory applies. So if that's something that you're worried about, don't obviously to make the projects, I will be using the vast majority of alcohol markers, but to understand the skills that will then help you to be more confident in your own design, you don't need alcohol markers. Okay, so here, you guys know I don't love the white outline, so I did color it in. This is from the Merry Moments pattern paper pack, and I just trimmed that down. The packs are designed to make 2 A2 size card fronts. That's a lie. Slightly larger, because they're by 6. So, and an A2 is 5.5. But you can cut them in half and then create 2 A2 size card fronts from what you have. And then here, really, there I'm just kind of making sure that my lines are straight. I am going to pop this up since it is such a simple card. I'm not really there's the pattern paper and the coloring, but I'm not really doing anything else to it. I want to make sure that I add something else to make it interesting. So I am going to pop this up in the center, and then I'm going to go in with that white gel pen. Oh, well, after I add my shimmers, of course. I love my shimmers. I cannot deny the shimmers. And then I'll do my white gel pen. So I did it to highlight their eyes. I also did highlight the tops of their heads. For my chickadee, I went in and drew some lines to kind of break up his feathers. And then we talked about how we would break up those pine branches as well, and that was the same kind of technique. I don't apply a lot of pressure, I just let it be really streaky. I added a couple of little dots of highlights to the berries. We're going to add some more stuff to the berries though too. You can, you can stop when you get to whatever works for you. I tend to go a little crazy with my white gel pen, but that's because I think it adds so much. So sometimes I can be a little bit overzealous, but that's okay. It happens to the best of us, I think. So once those highlights are done, then I am going to go in, like I said, I can't help myself, but to add a little bit of glitters. Oh, here, I did the streaks, in the pine, and I was a little overzealous, so I did go back in with I think it was the BG75, and just kind of flick over those. Now it's not going to completely cover the white, but it will kind of knock it back a little bit. Just make sure that your white gel pen is dry before you do that. Otherwise, you can get it onto your Copic nib, and you don't want any of that. Then I use some pearls. These are from, I think it's the Merry Moments pearls. I added some red on there, and then I did the Stardust stickles onto my little berries, to help them be a little extra shiny. And then that's it. That is the whole card. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you for being with me all year long. I appreciate your guys' support and the relationships we've been able to build. I wish you and your family the happiest of New Year's, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.